Uh, Hello, welcome to another episode of Clutch Trick Gaming. True to Clutch Trick form, I have just gone into a rust build on a Volkswagen Beetle with a vintage Clutch Trick logo, all this cool stuff, and I did it with the absolute perfection that is known in the Clutch Trick Gaming world as... I forgot to hit the record button. I just forgot to hit the record button, for crying out loud. So, that being said, let's do a Rust tutorial. Okay, so like I was trying to say before, but I was a little emotional. I have been in the process of making a Rust tutorial using a Volkswagen Beetle, and as I'm going along on my merry way, I suddenly realized that I had forgot to hit the record button. I've done that before. I've done complete videos where I forgot to hit the record button. This time, thank God, I was able to notice this when I was only like 30 minutes into it. So, that being said, let's do a Rust tutorial, this time with the record button on. What my goal is here today is to create a car that looks like it would have been the Volkswagen, or would have been the Clutch Trick car from before my time even. Something that, maybe has like an old school logo based off kind of how the logo and the livery for Clutch Trick is today. I like multiple bright colors and stuff. But just trying to think, what if Clutch Trick existed before I did? What if it's from the 1950s or 60s? How would a car that was built back then to be used in playground games and such look? So I've gone back and picked this Volkswagen Beetle because that's a car that definitely would have existed way back even in the 1950s. And we're going to change this thing up and make it completely my own. The way I'm going to start, and the way I start all my Rust libraries, is I use a semi-gloss paint scheme. What is up with that license plate area? Looks like I got pushed in or something. So I start with a semi-gloss. Now don't just stay with regular semi-gloss. I actually go in and change some of the settings on it. So here I'm thinking, I like the bright colors, but maybe not all the bright colors like I use today would have been around back then. So let's give this kind of a flat bluish, greenish type look. And I want to leave the color a light enough color that the rust effects will actually show up on it. That sometimes can be a little bit of an issue, that you get going, you've got all this work put into something, but it just doesn't work because the color underneath it is the wrong color. Here we go. I think that's getting us much closer to what I want to see. Let's make it a little more green instead of blue. There we go. Yeah, like that. Like that. What happens if we go way over here in this spectrum? That's a pretty bright color. I could see that being the case. So this looks like a pretty vivid, bright kind of Clutch Trick color. I'm going to remember that. That's sort of on the right side of the green here. Now let's just play around and let's run through the spectrum and see if anything pops out at us. Actually, those colors there are kind of nice. Now that I've got that kind of base saturation and brightness figured out, I can go back and forth here and do whatever I want, and it's okay. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to the green bluish area. think I will work with this here. And maybe just a little bit of tap tap. Okay, that'll work. Now, trick I was doing on this last one here was I was going in and looking at the hood color. I actually was starting out using just the regular Volkswagen instead of this one here. And part of me is wishing I did that, because I'm seeing that like some of these things like the LED lights might not go away. And LED lights are not something you would have had in the 50s and 60s. So what I'm doing here is I'm wanting to make it look like someone has put a new hood on the car, but they didn't paint it. So it's just got what's called E-coat primer. That E-coat primer is something that's intended to be sanded and painted over. So when you paint over it, it obviously it protects from corrosion and stuff. But on cars like this, and you may have seen some driving down the road where somebody has just left that on there, and so it'll look black, but it'll have kind of like a flat black and maybe even a little bit of a rusty type look to it. I'm trying to make it look like that's what this hood is, so it'll have kind of a funny look to it like this sometimes. If you ever see a car with a hood or fender or door on it looking like that, it's where they bought brand new parts. They just didn't paint them when they put them on. So we're going to do that, and I want to do something similar to that with the wheels. This highlight color, I'll make it a little more brown in the wheels there so it shows up better. Kind of give them a dirty look. And I don't think there's no windows to paint. Let's go with this. Okay, so here's where the fun really begins. And parts of this I'm going to cut myself out and speed up at times maybe. But I'm also going to be kind of talking through here so you know why I'm putting things where I am. So first thing I'm noticing when I look at this, I'm looking for places that natural rust would form. Where would there be high wear items, like where someone's arm would be touching or where rocks are going to hit, things like the tail lights, the door handles, the hinges on the front of the door. And then I'm not real up to date on Volkswagens, but that little kind of quadrilateral shaped thing there behind the fender, I think that would have been a little door that would have opened up maybe for a fuel tank. I'm not sure, but we can see now that the car has an aftermarket fuel tank installed right there in the black and red and yellow area. So I'm looking for those types of places and thinking, you know, what's going to happen there over years and years of use with this car. So let's go in and we'll go to apply vinyl shapes, and I won't do this part. I won't show you this part every single time. I'm going to go over here, and I like to pick the little fuzzy looking ball. That's a fuzzy little ball. Shouldn't have said that. We'll pick a brown color, and right now just move it. So for example, let's say this thing has been built like this for years and years. Someone has put fuel in it over time and they keep splashing the fuel out. It's eating up the paint. So we've got a brown spot here right around the fuel tank. We'll put that on. Now I'm going to cut that with the X button and put it back in with the Y button. And I'm going to put it in again with the Y button. Now I'm going to change this one here. I'm going to change the size of it, and I'm going to make it really tall. And then I'm going to make it really skinny. And then move it down some. And you have to play with this a little bit. So I probably made that too tall, so let's make it a little less tall. Move it down. Even more less tolerable. Tallish. Okay. So now with just a couple of brown spots like you might find in your whitey tighties, We've given it the look like someone has added fuel to the tank and splashed gasoline or race fuel on it, and over the years it has eaten off the paint and caused it to rust in that area. So now that I've got these two little pieces made up, I can really just do a lot of cut and paste. Just using that X to cut, I always put it right back in, and then I can come over here, put that same piece back in, select it, and now just run that to a different location. So I'm going to go up here to my hinges. Use the Y to stamp and add it there. And then this one I'm going to run down off the bottom a little bit because I don't like the way it looks. Stamp that there. Just that quick, it's already starting to look like it's got some real rust on it. Got a feeling with the shape of these fenders that the taillights might be a little bit of a fight. Oh, looks like not. Looks like it's going to be something that's done on the back. But right here I can go ahead and change the actual tail light housing itself and give it a little rusty look. If I can find, there it is. There it is. So I'm going to change the size on that a little bit. Just a little bit. And here I'm just hitting the stamp button over and over. You'll notice a little bit's coming down on there on the fender and darkening that up. I'm going to come back in a bit and I'm going to kind of go over that with something. So now we've completely rusted our tail lamp housing. We have done the fuel tank, the hinges. Let's go up here to the door handle area. A lot of times people put their hands in the door handle, and when they do, they rub off a little bit of the paint on the body. So I'm going to use the same piece and I'm going to spin it around kind of to the shape of the door handle. And I'm going to hit stamp. Now I've got two of those there and I don't really want it that dark. So I can move this one away. And I'm going to put it right here. Spin it around. So here we're looking at, water and rain over the years has caused that to run down and rust also. So we'll hit stamp. Whoops, went the wrong way with that. Move over to this one. I do wish that Turn 10 would give us the ability to erase part of a stamp or part of one of the vinyls. Here would be perfect. I could go back in and erase all of the brown that's above the door handle, but it's not a possibility. So let's see here. Something I may do on this one, because I kind of like how it looks, but it's a little too overplayed. It's too bright. We can go to, we can hit the right button again. So once I get what I want here, I can go over here to transparency and turn that down. Yeah, like that. Just like that. Let's give it a little more width. Oop, not that much. Voila. So very quickly we've already got the basics down, and you want to start off with the details and then come back and do your big stuff. So let's take this out, put it back in. So when I get these details in, then I can go back and do like the big picture that covers up, or big vinyl that covers up like half the side of the car, that type stuff. This one here, maybe someone's hand has been on it. And like I say, I don't know a lot about Volkswagens. I'm not 100% sure what this is. But it looks like a little door that would open up. Let's actually make this kind of a small area. Turn the transparency down a little bit. Any of these vinyls that are on here now, when I come back and add a vinyl over the top of it, if it's the same color, it's going to make this one seem a lot darker. So you don't want to get too overdone on this stuff here. Spin this one around a bit. And it really gets difficult, like how I'm working on the little door, but you can see where it's actually going onto the fender there. That honestly is some of the most difficult stuff to deal with on here, on this. And I don't consider myself really to be an artist or really good at this. Not like some of the people I've seen. So now we got some of the basic high wear areas. Let's do a different shape. I want to go a little bit different color. But you know, instead of picking a color, I can actually modify the color myself. I want to make it a little bit darker. I want to make it a little more red. Like that. I'm going to spin this around. This is going to go along what's called the rocker panel. The rocker panel is the part right below the door. Right there. And size, let's see here. Yeah, like that. A lot of cars will tend to rust down in that area, especially older cars. That's where they're getting all the dirt on them and all the abuse. There we go. That starts to make a little more sense there. It's really important to me when I do this stuff that the rust that's on it seems to make sense. I don't like just a big blob of rust in the middle of nowhere. So that's looking really good. I like how that landed on the car. We can do some detail around the door edges. I see a lot of people doing that in their liveries. I think some of it's a little overplayed. You know, your edges don't just completely rot off on every vehicle. But you will get some stuff going on like that. So let's see here. I'm actually not seeing the shape I'm looking for. You can use one of these weird shapes. They look like they have no purpose at all. But if you go in and you start changing the size of them, let's see if we can do it this way. Start changing the size of those little weird things. You can make it whatever you want it to be. So let's turn down the transparency a little bit. That. Spin it just a little more. Stamp. Move that up here. Let's do some more stampy stampy. Stampy stampy. Stampy stampy. Let's bring this out here. Now, oftentimes people will put their hands on the top of a door to open it, like right where the window is. So you'll get some wear in that area. Let's go back to the same shape. Spin that around. Shrink it down some. Put it right in there. Yeah, like that. Now this, I want to turn the transparency down a little bit too. Don't want to get too aggressive with that. There we go. This I think I'm going to use some more. Can do the same type thing back here. Maybe we'll adjust the size of it a little bit. There. This whole area here I'm kind of not liking. I want to do something with it. Kind of just want to scratch and tear that area up altogether, because that's an area where someone's going to be putting in their fuel. They're going to be doing a lot of moving around in that area and hitting the car. So try to think of ways that the car could be damaged in that area. Also, a piece of metal like that is going to get kind of flexed and bent. I know it seems like I get a little deep into how some of this stuff is thought out, but I think that's what makes the difference in something that looks really good and kind of makes sense versus something that just kind of has a nice pop to it but doesn't really make sense. You know, why would this car be looking like this? So there you can see, you know, maybe someone's been putting a fuel tank up there and they've scratched it a few times. That actually works out well. I really like that, actually. Let's do a little more in that area, just to change the basic color of that. Say that little piece is maybe added in at a different time. So I'll put that piece in. Now here's something that people have actually asked me how to do, how to move things, how to move layers up and down. So you see this at the bottom is layer number 24, but I want to put it under layer number 23 and even under probably layer 1, the first ones we did. So I'm just going to use the X button and cut that out. Then I'm going to move all the way down here to the bottom. I'm going to put it in, and now it's below layer number 1. Now I'm going to play with the color on that a little bit. So change the color to kind of a gray. Now we can play with the transparency, adjust that down a little bit. Don't want to make this thing look really strong. So I'll stamp it. Okay, so now I got two of those I can play with. I can move this one up a little bit. It's making a very subtle change. Not seeing any huge change in that area. Okay. Now I've pretty much hit all of your major points. I do want to come down here at the rocker panel area again. The bottoms of doors a lot of times will scratch against stuff and hit things. And then we've got one weld seam we want to look at also there. Let's take one of these guys. Give it a brown look. So just this basic shape can be used to go along the bottom edge of the door, right down in here. Just like I always hit the wrong button on stuff, I'm always hitting the wrong direction for the shape I want to make. So this bottom edge of this door here could be getting hit all the time. And getting worn down, rusty. So hit that. Now here I'm actually hitting the stamp button, the Y button. I hit it once, I hit it twice. Now I've got 3 different copies of that one shape there. I can just move this along a little bit. I'm actually going to bring it up here and spin it and flip it all the way over because the way it kind of fades. Okay, so getting back out of that, I actually just realized maybe I should move myself over here for you a bit so you can see better what it is I'm doing. Even though I've been saying what I'm doing. Now, if anyone's really trying to figure out some of those buttons I'm pushing, you can see it. So we've kind of got the right side of the car pretty much where I want it to be for the most part. The fenders are going to really be a difficult thing to fight. Let's go ahead and throw a little bit up here on the very top around an area that's called the drip rail. The drip rail is that little channel that goes along the top of your door that keeps rain from pouring in on you. So let's go along the drip rail. A lot of times those will rust out on older cars. Okay. Got to move down here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to use the same shape and I'm going to go around and stamp it. So hit the Y stamp button, spin it a little bit. Stamp it again. Spin it. You don't want to get in the habit of using the same thing over and over too much because it will show up and it's pretty obvious when people do that. So to avoid that type of look, you may change the transparency a little bit. Running the transparency down on this. Overlap it a little bit with the one next to it. Stamp it again. And down here another little stamp. So that's got some rust across the top now. Now we do want to throw something on the door again where people grab it and open it. So I'm going to go back and grab one of these guys. I'm going to cut it out, paste it back in so I'm not taking it away. But I want to put a whole new one in, so I'll put it here, change position, and then just move it right up to this area. Spin it. This area here would be a place where people are constantly grabbing a hold of it. And I'm just stamping and moving this across until I pretty much paint the whole area in. So I pretty much painted that whole area in dark like that. Now we can add a little more detail. Let's start to use some of these guys. The Rorschach ink blot test. That's what that is. We'll make this a darker, slightly darker brown. We'll take the size and run it way down. And this is a place too where I'm going to cut that out and move it below those layers I just did and put it back in. So now you don't see it on top of the brown, but you can see where it's kind of coming out from the bottom of it there. And now see how that worked. And I can actually move that piece still even though it stays underneath there. So I can tap a little bit. Ah, that's looking good. I like that. I actually like the way that worked out really well. So I want to go back over here and grab one of these guys again. And put this towards the top so it doesn't have that hard line. See at the top where you just see the edge of the vinyl and it just goes straight from brown to blue. I want to make that fade a little bit, so we're going to put this in here. And notice how it doesn't take the hard line out completely. I'm going to hit stamp on this. So now I basically have two of that one thing there. And that gave us just enough to take out the majority of that hard line. So there we've given it a nice realistic wear type look to it. Now let's see if we can work on those fenders some. And at this point, you kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm going to speed this video up a little bit. I'm going to take myself out, stop talking, and just start working. And if you have any questions, please put it in the comments below. I will come back at the end of this video and show you the completed project. So here we go.
I'm alone, I'm a broken home. I gave you all the bricks that I own and know. I'm letting go, I'm breaking these walls down, breaking these walls down. If you want adventure, then fly to home. But if you wanna travel, then go alone. Yeah, what's the point in us if I never know? Yeah, if you're gonna leave, I'ma let you go. I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm tired of wasting time. I fell where my demons dwell. My own little nightmare, I call it hell. Oh well, it's time to get back up. Climbing and climbing, I'm done with this ride, is what I tell myself, so I could feel something else. Yeah, I guess I had my bad days, but it doesn't mean I lost my style. Darling, where were you when my heart was on the ground? I thought time would prove that you would I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm tired of yesterday.
You might be the one taking me home. One thing really lead to one. You say that you're the worst, but I don't know. Is that true? People fear the silence with things they think they know. Baby, that's why I just be free and let it all go. Let's go. I don't care what you say, it's true. Don't matter to me, 'cause I want you. I want you. Yeah.
I'm alone, I'm a broken home. I gave you all the bricks that I own and know. I'm letting go, I'm breaking these walls down, breaking these walls down. If you want adventure, then fly to home. But if you wanna travel, then go alone. Yeah, what's the point in us if I never know? Yeah, if you're gonna leave, I'ma let you go. I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm tired with yesterday. Fada, fada. I fell where my demons dwell. My own little nightmare, I call it hell. Oh well, it's time to get back up. Climbing and climbing, I'm done with this ride, is what I tell myself.
Okay, so here you have it, the finished project. Rust paint Volkswagen, as though it were an old clutch trick vehicle actually used 40 or 50 years ago in playground games, what that would have looked like. I think the car actually came out better than I expected it to. However, the part you couldn't see here because I sped it up, this took me about 2 hours to do in real life, like real time. I really tried to do my best. I didn't want to spend the entire day, but you know, some of the seams like between the top and the fenders and the back, I tried to make those blend in as well as I could without devoting an entire day to this paint job. But all in all, I think this worked out great. Even got to show you guys a little bit on how to make some of the vinyls, the stickers, look old by putting them behind the rust and behind the scratches. So I'm going to get this thing out and I'm going to be using it in some of my live streams. definitely share this, so feel free to download it and use it. And I hope that you have learned something by watching this. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I also hope that if you do some rust paint jobs yourself, share them with me. Let me see. There is Facebook and Instagram for Clutch Trick for the game. Also, just shoot me a message through Xbox Live as well. And that being said, you guys have a good time out there painting and making your cars look nasty and old. Have a great day.